The first order of the day is the second reading of a bill standing in my name on the Federal University of Agriculture, ABAC, Akwa Ibom State Establishment Bill 2025, SB 675. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read for the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, the 11th day of December 2024. Mr. President, with your permission, I move that the bill, I will like to present the lead debate in pursuance of my motion that the bill be read for the second time. And if I have your permission, sir, I would like to just do the lead debate now. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on the general principles of the bill for an act to amend the Federal Universities of Agriculture Act to establish the Federal University of Agriculture, ABAC, Akwa Ibom State, and for related matters, 2025. The bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Wednesday, 11 December 2024. And Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, before I go on the lead debate, let me refer us to the title as contained in my lead debate. The title that is here is Lead Debate on the Federal University of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences, Abo, Imo State, 2021. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, I wish to say that this was a mistake. It's called Printer's Devil, but I accept responsibility for this, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, and I wish to have it corrected properly as the bill for an act, the lead debate on the bill for an act to amend the Federal Universities of Agriculture Act to establish the Federal University of Agriculture, ABAC, Akwa Ibom State, and for related matters, 2025. And I invite the Secretariat to kindly note.
What we have here is Imo State.
Sorry, sir.
What we have is Imo State.
Yes, that's why I've corrected it, sir.
Out of the amendment, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So we now read a bill to amend the Federal Universities of Agriculture and to establish the Federal University of Agriculture back in Akwa Ibom State and for related matters 2005, 2025, SB 675. The amendment is carried. You may proceed to espouse your lead debate.
Distinguished colleagues, here is the lead debate on the general principles of the bill for an act to amend the Federal Universities of Agriculture Act to establish the Federal University of Agriculture, ABAC, Akwa Ibom State, and for related matters, 2025. The bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Wednesday, 11 December 2024. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, this bill seeks to establish the proposed university in ABAC, Akwa Ibom State, an agrarian community notable for the production of various agricultural produce. As such, the university will provide the enabling environment for robust agricultural practice as well as boost agricultural production in the country. Agriculture, being one of the most predominant means is livelihood in the country, agriculture being one of the most predominant means of livelihood in the country has contributed immensely to the nation's GDP. Demands for agricultural products are rising rapidly due to unprecedented rise in population. Therefore, establishment of specialized universities as contemplated by this bill is sacrosanct as it will provide the platform for research and innovations, as well as acquisition of the requisite educational skills to accelerate agricultural growth. The objectives of this bill, among others, are to encourage the advancement of learning and to hold out to all persons without distinction of race, creed, sex, or political conviction, to develop and offer academic and professional programs leading to the award of certificates, first degrees, postgraduate research, diploma, and higher degrees, with emphasis on planning, developmental, and adaptive skills in agriculture and environmental disciplines. To produce socially mature agriculturists with capabilities not only to understand the agricultural need of Nigeria as a nation, but also to exploit existing agro-infrastructure and improve on it to develop new ones, and to undertake any other activities that is appropriate for a University of Agriculture of the highest standards. On this note, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, I respectfully commend this bill for your kind support with a view to fast-tracking the legislative processes that will lead to its expeditious passage by the National Assembly. I thank you all, and I want to say that in line with our Order 76.3, the Compendium of Financial Implication is hereby attached. Once again, I thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues.
For this opportunity to make my contribution to this debate. Mr. President, looking at this bill, it is a very, very straightforward bill. And Mr. President, it also synchronizes with the desire of government to diversify our economy. And most part of this country, including this part that is considered for the location of this university, is agrarian. And I think that also combining it with the fact that it's also an area that is afflicted most times with these environmental hazards, it is appropriate and germane at this point to see the situation, the institution there. And so I encourage my colleagues to support this bill to be read a second time so that we can move on with it and assure the establishment of this institution. I so second and support, Mr. President.
Thank you. Distinguished Senator Ningi.
Ningi, and I represent Bauchi Central, Bauchi State. Mr. President, this is a very timely bill that underscores the importance of agriculture, particularly in the Niger Delta area. Mr. President, even though our nation is an oil-producing nation, but it's still an agrarian nation in perspective. Nowhere in this country does agriculture not flourish. And therefore, it is important to have a specialized unit that deals with specialized courses, particularly agriculture. Over the years, Mr. President, there seems to have been a unanimity that everything oil is in the Niger Delta, and therefore anything agriculture is not in the Niger Delta. That is false. That's a very false narrative. We travel across the crannies of the Niger Delta, and we have seen agriculture. We have seen farmers all across the Niger Delta states. So it is important for all of us to appreciate that what is good for the gander is good for the goose. Therefore, agriculture in Abak, a quiet town in Akwa Ibom, with a specialized discipline, will attract attention all across the Niger Delta, whereby its kids and kin will be able to study agriculture will be able to become agricultural farmers, and will be able also to look across the nation and become what they want to become. Therefore, when you establish a university of this nature, and people get the best out of the agricultural facility, then you are expanding their horizon, you are expanding their perspective, you are giving them options. It is not every one of them or every one of us that will play a role in the oil and gas industry in Nigeria. And therefore, there are people who inherently do not wish to be associated with oil and gas, but if you don't create option for them, you let them with no option but just stay to remain idle. And therefore, when you establish agriculture with specialized units in Niger Delta, you are encouraging people, and you are also bringing people to unite. You are now asking people from all over the country to also apply to this university, and when they apply, they come back, and that will bring also an enhanced unity that is much needed, especially at this time of our history. I therefore support this move, and I encourage my colleagues, members of the Senate, to just do so for so many reasons outlined by the mover of the motion, the seconder, and some of us that have also spoken about this motion, this bill. So it's important that we see it that is apt, it's timely, and therefore it's important that we give it the Nigerian recognition, because this is a Nigerian project. It's not Akwa Ibom, it's not ABAC. It's a Nigerian project that we must all support. I thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Mr. President.
I rise to support all those who have spoken that this bill merits a second reading. But that said, I want to remind all of us, each time I hear people make comment about an institution in a particular place will provide opportunity for the people of that area, I think we are making a mistake. Any institution in Nigeria, being a federal institution in particular, is for the Nigerian nation. Number two, I am particularly fascinated when we cite institutions outside the state capitals. It reminds me of what it used to be in those days in the First Republic. Sir Ahmadu Bello set up Ahmadu Bello University, not in Kaduna, that was the capital, but in Zaria. And Awolowo was set up one in Ife, not in Ibadan, that was the capital of Western Nigeria. And I can go on and on and on. So for me, we have two things we must consider in location of institutions of any type. The need to ensure consciously that we achieve even development that are not concentrated in the 36 state capitals. The benefit of this is that people who are clamoring for more states need to be reassured that every part of Nigeria, and indeed every part of a state, can and should benefit from federal presence and state presence without necessarily being state capital. And so the idea of starting a university in ABAC, which has been described rightly as an agrarian community, for me, it fits into our responsibility as a national as Senate to ensure that institutions are located in rural communities. That way, we will halt rural-urban drift, because you can find life outside the state capital. And we achieve, as I said earlier, the whole commitment to evil development of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, regardless of whether or not your area is a state capital. It bears just to add that those who have spoken about the need to refocus on agriculture, for me, the benefit of that is that a lot of our young people need to know that to be a farmer is not to be a primitive guy. That indeed farming is one of the most elegant professions. So those statements will be made by establishing institutions such as this. And therefore, I join those who have spoken to say that this bill, this University of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences at Abok is justified, and I urge my colleagues to support that it goes through or pass through the second reading. Thank you, Mr. President.
Community, but it's a federal constituency. The entirety of the federal constituency contributed a lot to agriculture in the First Republic. In fact, it was from this Abak that they took the first seed from there to go and develop in Malaysia what we now have as farm produce in commercial quantity in Malaysia. So going back to agriculture is a welcome development for the nation. But maybe when we go for the public hearing, I'll be able to know the correct location that this should be cited, because just by the Abak itself is an Institute of Agriculture, which was established in the 50s and then modernized by my administration when I was a governor, with well over 80 structures on ground, which could be used to take off. But that would mean approaching the state government to be able to grant that concession. That is at a place called Oruwanam, which is still within the area of the Abak, and that can take off very easily. They have sample farms, they have everything. He had operated for 33 years as an Institute of Agriculture. So that's where my mind is going into, but that can be discussed at the public hearing when the communities will come, and then the government will be able to lend a voice to enrich the debate. So let me plead with our colleagues so that we cut it short, and then we still have ongoing budget defense, and even the Deputy Senate President is currently representing me at the Afrexim stroke King's College launching of the Cardio and Hematology Hospital here in Abuja, first of its kind in Africa. And that's why some of the senators are not here. Senator Suko and a lot of them are there now. So we may need to finish quickly to go and brush up the budget for possible presentation tomorrow and next. So those in support that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.